to the 2023 presidential election. How ready are you to take part in that exercise? Today on the program, Osun State Election Petitions Tribunal sacks Ademola Adeleke, declares Ogberiga Oyetola rightful winner of governorship election. Motorists, commuters, and business suffer as biting fuel scarcity defies solution. And later the show, Buhari CBN bowed to pressure over old NAIRA notes deadline amid biting scarcity. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Dari Odufookon. So if you are ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. Let's begin on a celebratory note. As our own Babajide Kolade Otitoju continues to garner laurels at nationwide, this time Babajide was honored as an outstanding broadcaster by Archbishop Vining College of Theology, Akure, Ondo State. He was of State for Petroleum Resources, ordained Ajumogobia, Chairman of Tribune Group, Ambassador Olutokunbo Awolowo Dosunmu, among eminent Nigerians. Let's share the story with you.
Dignitaries across Nigeria gathered in Akure, Ondo State capital, for this award ceremony. The event, organized by the Archbishop Vining College of Theology, Akure, was designed to honor Nigerians who have distinguished themselves in their various fields.
Of the Fellow of Academy of Theology.
One of the award recipients here is the Group Controller of Current and Public Affairs at TVC Communications, Babajide Kolade Otitoju, who has excelled in his chosen career. He was decorated with Outstanding Broadcaster Award due to his objective analysis of issues on Journalist Hangout, a TVC Current Affairs program that has become a household name in Nigeria. Later, Kolade Otitoju stated that the award will spur him to perform better as a watchdog of the society.
And it gives me tremendous joy that of all the awards that I've received, this is the first coming from the body of Christ. In the last 5 years, I've received more than 110 awards. This one coming from the body of Christ makes it really special to me.
He also appreciated the organizers for singling him out for the award, adding that he will project journalism better and remain unbiased.
I want to believe that the voice of Christian clerics, the voice of believers, true believers in the Almighty, is truly the voice of God. And I am convinced today that even the ruler of the universe appreciates the work that I do. This is, for me, evidence that what I'm doing pleases God.
Other award recipients at the colorful event include the former Minister of Information, Professor Jerry Ghana, the former Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, ordained Ajumogobia, the Chairman of Tribune Group, Ambassador Olutokunbo Awolowo Dosunmu, the Managing Director of Africa Independent Television, AIT, Oluwatosin Dokpesi. Among others, Ajumogobia noted that theology remains a critical aspect of creating better understanding and navigating issues, concepts, and ideas that underpin or divide the society.
Nigeria has become so prayer-dependent for nation building, as we also seek to pray ourselves into national unity and development. But this completely negates theological principles which we teach. Even so, faith, if it hath not works, is dead.
On his part, Professor Ghana is not happy with the situation of things in the country, with specific reference to the current fuel scarcity.
The fuel shortage is a very serious problem, and we know that the government of the day certainly should be able to do something decisively about it. And so we direct them, we request them, we urge them on behalf of the people of the Federal Republic, do something urgently. It's not an appeal. The nation is calling upon government to act urgently.
Chief Doctor Mrs. Tosin Dokwasi, a very quiet person, very considerate, amiable person, always in touch with the staff, and she's always there. And for her to be appreciated today speaks volume. It shows that whatever you're doing in your quiet place is also being
seen. This is another big one, and from the Anglican community and the Archbishop Viney College of Theology in Akure.
Yeah, he came as a surprise to me, and you know, the interesting thing was, I was here, sat in my office, and they came to see me to tell me that they wanted to honor me. I feel other worthy Nigerians, some of them, I was seeing them for the first time. The former minister, Jumo Gobia, was seeing him for the first time at the events, and he's someone that I have so much respect for. And to share the stage with him,
Professor Jerry Ghana.
And Professor Jerry Ghana, to share the stage with individuals gives me tremendous joy. And it shows that what we do here is appreciated. Sometimes we tend to diminish ourselves in a way in terms of the value of what we do. There's a lot of work that we do here, and the truth is, majority of our people are happy with what we do.
Larry, journalist hangouts, Jide, always outstanding and always setting the pace for others.
Yeah, well, this is not you or us here saying this. This is what has been proven over time with these laurels and awards. Some personal for BKO, some general for the program. And it also must be said that this encourages everyone. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of risk at times,
commitment,
a lot of inconvenience. But whatever it is, when you feel appreciated in whatever you're doing, you are pushed to do more. And that's why we must also appreciate these people who sit down and deem it fit that let us appreciate people doing little but great things. Because if you look at it, other people plan awards and they decide who they give it to. They look for those who can give them money in return and all that. But when you now see people who feel, let's encourage these people through what we are also doing, we should also appreciate them. And I think it's a good one for all of us. This is not just for BKO alone. It's for all of us, and we should all be proud of it.
BKO, they don't have to agree with us every time. They don't have to agree with your analysis every time. People come at us, people insult us, they abuse us, they say a lot of things. But we are committed, we will continue to do what we know how to do best.
Yes, this is the job that God gave us. I say boldly that this is the job that God gave us to do, and in everything we do, we have to be conscious of the fact that one day we'll stand before our Maker and defend our activities here on earth. If you can't fight for the people, if you are motivated by sentiment, then you have failed in terms of your mission on earth. And the journalist's mission is to speak the truth to power. The people around the seat of power may not like you. They may insult you. But you know, the interesting thing is, when those people even see you individually, the way they relate with you, you now wonder, why is it that some busybody somewhere are always abusing you, when the people whose job they think they are doing, they actually appreciate what you are doing. This is the thing. Some busybodies on social media, they call you names, they say all kinds of things. But the people whose corner they are fighting,
Yeah.
You meet those people and you see that those people
Look at the
will tell you,
military
you are doing a good job.
Look at the military.
This is it. There are people.
This is the most-
You remember one petition that somebody sent
To remind
me of TVC that I was enemy of the Nigerian military, this and that, this and that.
Yeah.
But today,
all formations.
I have access. I have access that some people can only dream of. Some of the biggest war machines in the history of our country, I have been privileged to even take a ride in them as a civilian. I've been to where civilians, or the ordinary civilian cannot get to. Yet they sent a petition to say 150 civil society groups were against me, that I was enemy of Nigeria, this and that. Absolute rubbish. At the end of the day, what did they achieve? We've seen people even come into TVC on a program to abuse me because I criticized the military. Today, I can say that the best friends that I have are in the military. If I enter any military formation, you can't describe the reception. So it shows that people like the truth. The generality of our people don't like the truth. It's not every Nigerian that is a sycophant. The generality of our people like the truth, and they appreciate those who speak the truth. They don't appreciate the people who are cowardly to their own conscience and would rather not speak the truth. So this is the thing.
All right, moving on now. Most times, calamities occur to test our resolve, such as occurred to the governor of Nasarawa State, Abdullahi Sule, who described the death of his first son, Hassan Abdullahi Sule, as a test from God. Governor Sule, who spoke while receiving condolences at the palace of his father in Akwanga local government area, quoted from the Holy Quran that God promised to test the faiths of every believer. It's a very touching one, Jide. Dari, let me start from you. And 36, I saw the picture of the boy.
I saw the picture of the father praying over the remains of his son, and I was touched. We were in the middle of production yesterday when the picture came, and I looked at it. No parent deserves to go through such. But if you read or listen to him talk, you see that he's being strong and he's carrying on with faith, because from what we read, the guy was ill for some time, and it is not finance or the availability of good health that will have led to that death. It is not the failure of the parents to have given him the best of medical attention. It is not lack of love. Neither will it be lack of the will to live on the part of the young man. But obviously, the best we can say is what the governor is saying now. That he sees it as a test of his faith by God. Yes. But I tell you, nobody deserves to be tested in that manner.
It's not easy.
Yeah, but life itself is a test. We just have to admit it. The governor said he was consoling someone who lost 90 and 70 cows. And he didn't know that something similar will happen to him. You know how painful it is to lose a grown-up son in this manner. But Governor Sule is a very strong man. It's not just cerebral as a governor, but he has also shown courage and infinite faith in God. That look, God has said that true believers will face tests. And it's like that in Christendom. Some of the people, even in the Bible, showed the greatest love for God. Who showed the greatest loyalty to God. The kind of test that they face, the ordinary man was not subjected to such tests. Look at Stephen. You saw how Stephen ended up. Look at Paul. You saw how Paul ended up. A lot of
prophets of old.
Yeah, a lot of them were martyred. You know, and then you ask, after all the loyalty,
God and all that,
did they deserve to end this way? But God knows best, and I appreciate Governor Sule for the manner in which he has taken this calamity. It takes a very strong person. A lot of us are very emotional.
Yeah.
But he has courage. He demonstrated it in terms of the way he has responded to the loss of his son, because this came just suddenly. And the governor has handled it well. I think that anybody reading him will know that there's nothing in this life after all. Debt is a debt that we all owe. Whether we like it or not, we all pay that debt. The point is, we don't know when exactly. And we don't want to see our children die before us. We don't want to bury our children. It's a calamity for anyone. It's an indescribable pain for anyone to be the one to bury his son. May God console the governor, given the fortitude to bear this unbearable loss. And our hearts are with him. We pray for him as a friend of the house. We pray that God will take this kind of calamity away from his household forever.
All right. Moving on now. Our capacity to prepare for calamities is often put to test during disasters. The 2022 flood disasters that ravaged many parts of Nigeria come to mind. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, said the country lost more than $6 billion to flooding in 2022. The minister added that based on the current statistics as of 25th of November, the total direct economic damages caused by the floods are in the range of $3.79 billion to $9.1 billion. The federal government has warned that there will be more flooding in 2023. Dari, a stitch in time.
Saves now. Then we must learn from the events of the past. The humongous damage that has been reviewed.
2022 was
2022 was actually a year we should be described the year of flooding in Nigeria, because practically every part of the country felt the impact of water. Huge amount of it. People were rendered homeless.
We're not prepared for it.
Deaths occurred.
Yes.
Economic trees and other agricultural products destroyed. And then a lot of projects even suffered. Many projects planned by government groups and individuals could not go on because of the flood. So it is not out of place for us to be hearing the figures now, because if you put all this together,
$6 billion.
It is huge. And the government, for once, is doing something good, in my opinion. Putting the laws together, announcing it, projecting the possibility of a similar situation if we don't do certain things. And that's where I will challenge the government, the federal government specifically, and state governments where necessary. It is better for us to prepare. We have all the ministries, we have the agencies, we have the offices. It is not enough for people to just prophesy danger. We should begin to take necessary steps to ensure that we prevent what we are. It's just like a prophet or prophetess who sees doom, and all he or she knows how to do is to announce and pronounce the coming of doom and troubles, without, for one, saying this is what you can do to avert this looming danger. That's what we do most times as a country. We announce there will be flooding, there will be this, there will be that. What are we doing? What I want to follow now from the government is measures that will be taken on the part of government. Things and responsibilities that need to be assumed by the people, especially in areas where we all know are prone to flooding. It is only when we do that that we will prevent another 6 billion or so from being lost to a similar catastrophe in the new year.
Bikio, when you look at that 2022 and what the minister has just put together now, you will know that, look, sometimes if this kind of warning is now given for 2023, we should be prepared and should be more prepared, and we must not be caught off guard like what happened in 2022. is unexcusable.
Yes, but you know, this flooding on a very big scale is the direct result of global warming. So there is a collective, we all have roles to play. Can the government plant more trees, for example? Because those who had been preaching and preaching for us to plant more trees, we didn't listen to them. What are the things we are doing that are worsening global warming? Because these irregular rainfall patterns, they are the result of global warming, nothing else.
I'm telling you.
Nothing else.
Look at yesterday morning as we woke up, somebody told me that it was raining on the island.
Yes.
And it was drizzling and everything, the weather was heavy here and everything,
And then,
but still the rain did not come down.
And then when people build on floodplains, government has the responsibility to relocate them.
Okay.
Take out those buildings. People will take our will to remove those buildings so that the rest of us do not suffer for the indiscretion of a few amongst us. Then, in coastal communities, you look at a state like Kogi,
Yes.
where you have the confluence of the River Niger and Benue. What are we doing to ensure that the communities are protected? The communities along the river banks are protected, because you can actually construct dikes, you can construct barriers that ensure that even when there is flooding, the roads are protected, the communities are protected. We lost bridges, we lost roads to this thing, and more than 600,000 by government figures, more than 600,000 Nigerians lost their lives. So these are
huge.
humongous, because they are talking about money here, but we actually lost lives. Olam Nigeria Limited is the biggest rice farmer in our country. Olam lost 4,500 hectares of rice farmland, valued at about $15 million in his farm in Doma local government area of Nasarawa State. And Olam alone accounts for about 25% of rice production in our country. So you can see why rice prices are going up. Because there's no way that farmlands will be washed away in Taraba and all these major food production beds of our country, and we think it will not affect pricing. Of course, it will affect pricing. So what can we do to mitigate the pains? The World Bank has been talking about food insecurity in our country in the year 2023. It was worsened by this flooding. So many farmers lost their farmlands. A lot of them now are even discouraged to embark on farming anymore. Government has to come in at this stage. Go to Taraba and see how people lost rice farms. Who is doing something to mitigate the pains that those people have suffered? This is where government comes in, and government has to be responsible. To say, look, we know you went through this adversity. This is what we are trying to do for you to make sure it doesn't happen again. This is how we are trying to assist you to recover
what you lost.
You know? So, but are we really saying that? It's not enough to simply take grains to some people, because a lot of these people were pushed to IDP camps. Some of them hurriedly harvested their crops before their due date, because they could see that this flooding had come. So we have to work hard to ensure that that this flooding on this kind of scale does not happen again. This kind of flooding, you know, we had it about 10 years or 11 years ago. We can't afford to have this kind of flooding back to back.
Yes.
Back to back.
July 2012.
Damage our people beyond repair. So government has to come in and do what is needful. I saw when the president said, okay, state governors, let us come together. What do we do? The problem for me is that these efforts usually come too late. not when the whole country has been affected. That's when we are now taking steps. We should actually begin to plan.
Proactive, not
now,
reactive.
before the rains come. You predicted that there will be flooding this year. Yes, it's inevitable. But to take, not experience this kind of pain again, it's just terrible.
In terms of compensation, I don't think those guys they're on their own.
That's exactly what I was saying here. I saw a video of a poultry. The poultry sits on 6 plots. A big poultry sitting on 6 plots. And flood entered the place, killing all the birds there. And it's owned by an individual. So such a person, you can be rest assured that the possibility of him doing poultry farming this year is nil. So that's just an individual. Then he spoke about Olam, a company losing rice farms. There are people, there are groups, there are organizations like that who suffer such terrible loss. It is not out of place. Those are the kind of things we call social intervention projects. You see, people have lost. Yes, they are private individuals, they are private organizations, but the effects of their losses are not felt by them alone. The issue of food pricing and food scarcity are direct or indirect fallouts of these personal losses, as we want to call them. So, to ensure that they are back in business, to ensure that this year we don't fill their vacuum, and to also ensure that they are better prepared to face the situation should it arise again. It is not out of place for government to call such people and find measures, financial, supportive, or whatever, to help them get over what they lost quickly. So, talking about it's not really compensation, because they were not affected by any error on the part of government or whatever. But I would see it as effort to mitigate. Support. Let's see it more as a support structure. Intervention from government. Thank you. To help them get over what they lost. Government cannot give them all they lost. But help them start the process of getting back on their, keep hope alive for them. Because if we do this, we'll be helping not just those people, but others who rely on what they do to survive. You know, there are subsidiaries to some of these businesses. People who go to this particular Olam to get their own bags of rice. They have credit facilities already. They have arrangements of you come and pack this thing, go and sell, bring money. All those ones too will be affected. The poultries that were lost, there are people who get eggs from them to stay alive. So we will intervening in such situation as this on the part of government is not out of place, and not just the federal government. The state governments too should look beyond commiserating with people when they lose business or properties. We should begin to have a structure, a system that helps them, that intervenes and help them get back on their
That's what the ecological fund is supposed to be
meant for.
But over the years, it's been looted and routinely looted by the people in power.
And then obviously things like this will happen. They are natural disasters. But when we don't react well, we see people feeling the impact more.
Moving on now, for some analysts and stakeholders concerned, it was seen coming. For others, it was unexpected. The Osun State Election Petition Tribunal has sacked Ademola Adeleke as the governor of the state and declared Gboyega Oyetola as the winner of the July 16 governorship election in the state. Justice Tessa Kume, who delivered the majority judgment, declared that the Independent National Electoral Commission did not comply substantially with the provisions of the Constitution and the Electoral Act. Meanwhile, Governor Adeleke vowed to challenge the judgment at the Court of Appeal, describing it as miscarriage of justice. Earlier, December, BKO bared his mind on this issue.
What we have seen in Osun is that we have to shine our eyes as a people. Because these beavers, we felt that beavers was the silver bullet
That's it.
that will put an end to election rigging in our country. But the facts coming out of Osun are really startling, and I'm worried. I'm worried for the 2023 election because if in Osun alone we can have this quantum of overvoting, the APC in Osun are saying that overvoting happened in 747 polling centers. It is for the tribunal to determine whether that is true. It is for the tribunal to determine whether the quantum of overvoting had such a big bearing on the outcome, on the final outcome.
Yeah.
But some of what came out of the tribunal suggests clearly that there was overvoting. And then the question you ask is, what is going on? What role did beavers play in this whole thing? In Ede South, for example, accreditation figure was 830. But in the beavers report, the figure of accreditation was 793.
Yeah.
Okay. That's in Ward 4, Unit 7, Ede South. The figure of accreditation in the beavers report was 313, while the result on Form EC8A was 383. What we will expect to see is that whatever is captured by beavers
Is gospel.
yes.
Yes, Jide, this is another low for the electoral election umpire in the country. Very low, very low. Because we did not expect. Yaga Africa just submitted the report now, election manipulation propensity index, reporting that it's likely that 22 states out of 36 states elections might be manipulated in those 22 states, and they came out with the fact if an off-season election like this in Osun State took place and INEC had to go ahead to declare a winner outside the number of registered voters that was outlined.
Accredited voters.
The accredited voters.
It's very shameful. It's very shameful that 744 polling units experience overvoting. This is election in just 10 local governments. 744 polling units overvoting happened. The election that took place in Osun was a scam. No doubt about it. Now, why do we have beavers? Beavers is backed by law. It is our electronic accreditation module. For now, that is the electronic accreditation module. Backed by law, I insist again, backed by law.
2022 Electoral Act.
Yes. Now, if beavers accredited 300 voters in a polling unit, and you go ahead to, in your result, you went to Form EC8A, and you wrote that 383.
Contrary to what?
That means something is wrong. What you have in Form EC8A, which is the analog,
Yes. Old way.
analog form,
Election results.
form on which results are written, must tally with the findings of beavers.
You must ensure that.
But that was not what we saw in Osun. I have always warned that beavers, that these politicians will bypass beavers using their agents within the electoral body. This is clearly what we saw. Now, to make matters worse, INEC could not convince the court, the tribunal, that there was no overvoting. What INEC tried to do was to try and protect itself But it failed. I will explain how they tried to protect themselves. Emanating from the polling units were not real. So they asked for the Beavers report, knowing that the Beavers could not be manipulated. But the Form EC8, it is still your hand that you will use to write the figure. So that can be manipulated. They asked for the Beavers report. And when the Beavers report came, it showed clearly that overvoting had taken place in 744 polling units.
Substantially affecting the outcome.
That is huge. And the votes that we are talking about here amounted to 115,000. Those are the votes deducted from the outcome. So you can imagine a situation in which 115,000 votes were unreal, manufactured.
That would have given undue advantage.
Manufactured. So when the PDP candidates' lawyers asked for, they too now asked for Beavers report. INEC now came up with a second Beavers report and claimed that it was yet to synchronize the entry in Beavers with the entry in the Form EC8A. But the Electoral Act does not recognize anything like synchronization of what's in the Beavers with what is in the Form EC8A. What the Electoral Act recognizes and validated by Section 60 of the Electoral Act is that Beavers shall be, whatever Beavers says, as far as the Electoral Act is concerned, is the gospel truth. So, unfortunately for them, even when they presented the so-called report, the second report, naturally there should have been only one Beavers report. But Nigerians being who we are, they came up with a second Beavers report. Even when they came up with that second Beavers report, it's still, the Oyetola's lawyers were still able to identify discrepancies. They were still able to prove overvoting even in the second Beavers report.
And both parties agreed.
Yes, and at the end of the day, INEC, whose responsibility it was to give us a free and fair, credible election, was complicit. Complicit, mark my word, complicit. And I say this with a high sense of responsibility. INEC was complicit in the manipulation of the election in Osun in a manner that should worry Nigeria. You know, I said it that I was worried for future elections. But at the end of the day, we have to admit that Beavers did this work. It is human interference now that appeared to give Beavers a bad name because they were the ones who came up with a phony second Beavers report. And what did the judges say? The judges said, when you presented the APC with that Beavers report, you didn't tell them that it was upon which then Beavers, by its nature, does not upgrade itself. What it has entered is there. It's not subject to manipulation. So, to me, INEC could not prove that overvoting didn't take place. And the law is clear. The law says wherever there is evidence of overvoting, the election in those places shall be cancelled. 744 polling units had their elections cancelled. That was consistent with the dictates of the law.
This will change the fragile political atmosphere in Osun State.
Beyond Osun, beyond that, it will change the political atmosphere in Nigeria. Because I tell you, see, what happened in Osun, first, let me quickly start by saying it's actually a victory for Beavers. I've seen a lot of arguments. The main victor in the Osun debacle is Beavers. And how? At the end of the day, it is Beavers that was able to help the parties establish that they were overvoting. In the absence of Beavers, If we were to be using the whole voters register system, they will get away with this as usual. Now, what happened in Osun was simple. And it points to the fact, like BKO said, as long as we continue to have human interferences, whatever technology we are bringing will still not give us the right result. But beavers must not be done away with. It is what we need. It is to accredit, and the law backing beavers made this easy. The Electoral Law 2022 shows that the only as they're trying to prove in Osun is that in some places beavers did not work. So they resorted to using voters register, and the tribunal told them it is unacceptable.
The Against the Electoral Act.
And INEC,
That's
the complicity,
2011 law.
the complicity of INEC is in allowing such. But I covered the Osun election. On this program, I said it when we came back that we saw where electoral officers were forced to allow people who were not accredited to vote. You must also understand
Whereas
that
their own rule book says that
it should not happen. But in some cases, they accepted under duress because the atmosphere was tense, charged. Now, I'll give you an instance where the chairman of a local government came with his aides, about 20 of them, and only 3 or 4 of them passed the beavers test. And at the end of the day, they proceeded to vote, and a system was deployed that, okay, put them on the voters register. Contrary to, so you have about 18 people already voting as against what is in the beavers. So you discover a situation where either by under duress or under influence, people agreed to bypass what the law says. But it is good that the tribunal, backed by 2020 electoral law, can look the perpetrator in the face and say, look, you failed. And that's why we should give credit to beavers. And next should try and clean up its house.
I just want to add something. You know, in some of the previous off-season elections that we've had, I complained that where some polling stations where voting was characterized by violence, INEC officials, I'm talking about Kogi and Bayelsa, INEC officers still returned votes.
But if you look at the law,
they return results from those areas.
The law 2022 election also make it clear that INEC cannot deduct votes. That's where the contradiction is. Even if INEC declares this thing, they can't deduct the votes.
Let's now bring in via Zoom Barrister Ibrahim Lawal, a lawyer, to discuss this matter. Thank you for staying with us.
Yes, my pleasure to join you.
What do you make of this judgment by the Osun State Electoral Tribunal?
Well, my conclusion about this judgment is that it shows clearly that the impression we have about beavers as the beginning and end of our electoral problem is far from being resolved. The judgment has clearly shown that if the umpire, the INEC, are not ready to be an impartial umpire, we continue to have problem with the electoral system. The judgment also showed to us that there is nothing wrong with beavers. In fact, beavers is very important in our electoral system if we want to get it right. The people who will handle beavers must, be alive to their responsibility. They must be faithful to the spirit and letters of the law. That's what the implication of the judgment. Judgment has clearly shown that beyond the package of declaration, the real winner of the election, a VAR is the referee. The tribunal is the VAR in this circumstance, and we have been able to clearly see who the actual winner is in that election.
Okay, let's look at the minority judgment. What are your takeaways from the minority, the 8-page minority judgment?
The dissent.
Well, if you look at the minority judgment, these have been the majority judgment. the minority judgment dwell in the past. Most of the authorities cited and agreed by the dissenting member of the tribunal are authorities that are related to 2011 Electoral Act. And the majority judgment actually they said in their judgment that that was in the realm of the past. You do not, because the insistence of the minority judgment that improving overvoting, you must tender voter register. The majority judgment says no, that under the new dispensation, you need not, tender voters register because voter register is not necessary in declaring or in finding out overvoting. So those are his takeaway that the petitioner has failed to give substantial evidence, to prove overvoting. While Section 137 of the Electoral Act is very clear about the document that the tribunal has the power to look at the document tendered before it, read it, investigate it, and draw conclusion out of it. So, as far as I'm concerned, the 8-page dissenting judgment has not done justice as the majority judgment, the 108-page, judgment has done. It has, in fact, answered a lot of questions thrown by, the dissenting judgment. So it is an unencompassing judgment that has answered issues thrown up by the dissenting judgment.
Now, let's also talk about the second Beavers report that INEC issued.
Yes.
By any chance, do you see the upper courts, especially the superior courts, or especially the final court, do you see them accepting the right of INEC to come up with a second Beavers report in the course of the
interestingly, we don't even need to discuss the other Beavers report because even the respondents disowned that Beavers report. Their contention is that the report that the court should rely on should be the one they went to do themselves. They ran away from people the synchronized Beavers report. That is even the irony of the case. The second and third respondent, the candidates and the party, said they do not also believe the synchronized Beavers embedded in it. There are discrepancies between the synchronized Beavers report and even the reports of inspection they said they went to do with Beavers machine. And we have been able to, so having realized that the two did not go along together, they disowned INEC and said that the court should focus attention on the inspection they did, which they gave their agents, who they paid to go and do inspection and bring out results and copy exactly what was in the Form EC8A and represent that as the accreditation, that the same thing that is contained in Form EC8A is the same that is contained in accreditation. Secondly, there is no court of the land that will believe the story of synchronization. One, in the Electoral Act, there is nothing like synchronization. Two, when the petitioner asked for the Beavers report of the election conducted on 16th July 2022, they were obliged that report, and they also certified and said what they gave to us is an accurate account of accreditation on that day. It was even on the basis of that report that results were declared and winners were declared, results were released and winners declared in that election. The other one, and the court rightly put it in the judgment, that as far as they are concerned, the second Beavers report was an afterthought. After they have received a petition, they now made another Beavers report in August, and that they said that the one released to us, were released before synchronization. Meanwhile, on the face of that document, there was nothing like synchronization. They did not at any point in time write to withdraw that one as incorrect. They never did. What they went to do was to go and prepare another document in order, to rubbish the ones they are giving us, and the judgment said, the tribunal said that action of INEC is reprehensible, that they made attempt, to distort, official documents. That was what they said in that ruling, in the judgment. So there is no way they could any court.
Okay, Barrister,
will overrule that position.
all right.
I was okay, it's good.
Dari.
Okay, I was going to ask, there is this other argument on the part of the respondent that in a situation where there is even overvoting and is established, is it right that the tribunal should have called for re-election, as in cancel the election and other fresh election?
Let me also add this one so that you have time to explain it. There's a part that the judge was quoted as saying that Governor Adeleke, he referred to the song of Kiss Daniel, that we should not buga. I want you to talk about that. Did he go outside his brief? Was that abnormal? The language used?
The outside legal acceptability.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. The Electoral Act is very clear. When there is an overvoting, it defines what is an overvoting. An overvoting is when the votes cast in a particular polling unit is more than the accredited voters. The law empower the deciding officer to cancel the result of that polling unit. What the petitioner has challenged is 744 polling units out of 3,000 and something, over 3,000 polling units in Osun. The required number is still there. The spread, 2/3 majority that you must have is still there, even when those 744 votes is taken out of the votes. If you have enough to still make them declare you as a winner, there is no need or no recourse for another election. If the challenge has been to like 12 local governments, 11 local governments, 30 local governments, that the winner had fallen short of the requirement of the law as to declaration as a winner. But because even with the taking out of the votes that are nullified by virtue of discovery of overvoting, the votes that are thought to be issued to the winner. So it is not true that in all cases that fresh election will have to be ordered. It depends on whether they have met the constitutional threshold as to warrant that person being declared as a winner. Secondly, judgment of courts are reflections of happening in the society. If you read judgment in the past, allusions are made or quotations are made from Macbeth, from literature. And that is why we study law. one of the requirements is that you must have literature in English.
Yes.
Reference are made, and that's what we call obiter dictum when judges write judgment. So you see a lot of allusions to literature, to work of arts, even to music in some cases, for lawyers and for judges to drive home their point. It is just to embellish and has nothing to distract, from the judgment.
Yes.
And the context by which the judge used the word the King Daniel's son is to drive home the point that as at the time the man is celebrating his victory, it is not yet time because he did not score the majority of block votes. That's what he was trying to put across in that judgment. It's not as if he has used that to deride anybody. Section 53(2) of the Electoral Act is very clear. He said where the votes cast at an election in any polling unit exceed the number of registered voters in that polling unit. That is the old law that the other dissenting judge was trying to say. But in this one said where the number of votes cast at an election in any polling unit exceed the number of accredited voters in that polling unit, the presiding officer shall cancel the result of the election in that polling unit. That is section 51(2) of this current Electoral Act. Unlike 2011, where you have to take, together, you have to take into consideration the number of registered voters.
Yes.
So, like I was saying, the issue of making allusion to poem, to poetic language, to music, to novels is not novel in the circumstance. And what is more, the reference to Buga in that judgment is not the first time the reference will be made. There is a case at NIC, National Industrial Court, where the judge also made reference to Buga song in his judgment. So judges make use of things like that to drive home their point. So it is not novel at all, and it does not detract from the judgment. That's what I'm trying to put across to you, that it has nothing to do with the judgment or the bias or sentiment as some people want us to believe. It has nothing to do with it.
Okay, Barrister, let's talk about the Adeleke team. What was the main kernel of their own defense at the tribunal? What was the main kernel of their defense in trying to affirm that they indeed won the election? What arguments did they bring forward?
Well, their own kernel of defense is that as far as they are concerned, recall that there was no overvoting, contrary to the report we brought. Their own defense is that our own Beavers report is incorrect, and that the Beavers report that INEC brought supersedes our own. That was even their defense in the first place.
That's the second Beavers report.
The second Beavers report supersedes our own.
Oh, okay.
That's their own issue, because according to them, synchronization took place. And because they want to say that they use more than 2 Beavers machines in some polling units. But the Electoral Act is very clear. A situation where you can use more than 1 Beavers machine only when there is the first Beavers is 40. That is when they said they should bring another one to replace it. There is no evidence to show that in any polling unit there was breakdown of a Beavers machine. No reports, no INEC reports, and we said so emphatically, which put a lie to their defense. Secondly, having saw the futility when we now did cross-examination and they realized that we have been able to put a lie to even the second Beavers report. They brought in a report, even the witness for the second respondent also contradicts one another. It is stated in those judgments. If you take time to read those judgments, the tables were there. The majority judgment, the chairman or the tribunal judgment clearly showed those discrepancies in those reports. Interestingly, we have like 3 reports, apart from the one they get with their evidence, and where there are, discrepancies in them, and completely, and said that the court should not look at any of the Beavers. So the thing now becomes this parable of 2 women who are laying claim to one son, to a baby, and they were before King Solomon, and the first one said they should kill the baby so that all of them could do. The other one said they can give the baby to the other one, they should not kill. In this case, they said the court should not believe any of the Beavers' reports, whether synchronized or the ones they said was not synchronized. They believe in the physical inspection they went to do themselves.
Okay, let's.
And it is our contention that.
Right, let's.
It is our contention that.
Let's talk about another issue that people have not really put so much accent on. That is the matter of forgery. The 3 judges appeared or agreed that Adeleke actually forged his secondary school certificate.
Yes.
I was thinking that since that in itself, by law, is a basis for disqualifying a candidate, I was wondering why the Oyetola legal team did not try to use that, did not sit on that.
No, we do. You see, in our grant of petition, the candidate, the second respondent, is not qualified to contest as at the time of election because he presented a forged certificate. It was on the basis of our own that they ruled that we are able to prove forgery. But the tribunal somersaulted by saying that because he has some other certificate rather than the secondary school, that he is still qualified. That is also a subject of cross appeal to us, because we believe that having proved forgery and the courts, the tribunal also find as a fact that there was indeed forgery and that forgery had been proven, then we are entitled to have judgment in our favor, and we are going to test it at the higher court. Our issue of forgery we brought before them was also affirmed by them that there was indeed a forgery of O level. And our contention is that if the base is wrong, whatever you put on it cannot stand. You can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand. If you say somebody has forged the document, and somebody who forged be seen to be a doctor.
I want to thank you for your intervention, Barrister Ibrahim Lawal. Thank you for that intervention.
Much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Jide, days ahead. Thank God that we have the Electoral Act has, over time since 1999, it has been amended. This same Osun State, it took Rauf Aregbesola 48 months to actually get his mandate back. So those
circumstances are similar.
Those days, we won't experience those days again. Now we have, it started back. We have 180 days for the tribunal level and the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. Ultimately, before the end of this year, this case will be resolved.
Hopefully in 60 days, the appeal court has to come up with a judgment. And then another 60 days, hopefully the Supreme Court will come up. So by the middle of the year, this whole thing will be laid to rest. It's not even...
Interesting.
We are not looking like maybe September. No, by the middle of the year, this matter will be laid to rest. The people have voted, they deserve to see the person they voted for.
On the flip side, we had protests from the part of the Adeleke people protesting that they voted for Adeleke.
Yes.
What is the court talking about?
I mean, that shows the frailty those who were doing that against Oyetola, who was declared the winner by the tribunal. Although he went on to lose at the appeal and at the Supreme. But there were no protests and killings and attacks at that point. So I think it is too early for anybody to cry wolf.
Yes.
The tribunal has established facts as presented to it. The laws that empower the tribunal to look into it also empowered the respondent to move to a higher court if he is not satisfied. So they should await the outcome. And then I was happy that while people were protesting, some people were rejoicing. That shows balance. Just like people, PDP supporters, said, there were celebrations, even in Oshogbo, Ilesha. We saw visuals of celebrations, just like we were seeing visuals of protest. So that cancels themselves out. However, the resolve to violence by any of the parties is uncalled for. It can only spoil the case of the person they appear to be defending, because the court of public opinion is equally strong. The appeals will go on. Go and, if you believe in prayer, be praying. If you need to make your legal team stronger, do.
On the final note, a lot of people will say that, look, INEC should make sure that they do their job very well, so that it's not the judges in courts that will be adding and subtracting votes to present governors. That INEC should make sure that
nobody is adding any vote. It's just people who feel pained that are coming up with this argument. No vote has been added. The judges,
the tribunal did not conduct
the judges have merely done what the law stipulates.
Yes.
Where there is overvoting, elections in such a polling unit will be cancelled. It's there in the Electoral Act. Yes. So the judges have done nothing outside of the law. So people worry themselves, they bother themselves about the fact that courts are stepping in to do what politicians did not allow to happen, where people willfully rig elections. Thank God we have the courts to say, look, you willfully rig this election, therefore, your wish will not come to pass. That's what the judge
will not benefit from your own crime.
Yes, that is what the courts are there for. A situation in which somebody is cheated, somebody should have won a primary election, is cheated, and the court steps in and says, look, this is the rightful winner. That cannot be wrong if we like justice. But the point with our people is, where it does not favor you, then you will start ranting.
Injustice.
When it happened in Bayelsa, people were happy. They said, the judges, the judiciary has shown that is the last hope of the common man. Where it happened in Zamfara, they said, the judiciary is the last hope of the common man, is best. Where the shoe finds itself on the wrong foot, NJC. For what? For delivering judgment using the law. If you felt that the judgment of those judges was wrong, you go to a superior court. It's as simple as that. You can't be calling for their investigation.
The judicial aspect of it is also part of the electoral law.
We'll take this break. It's Journalist Hangout. On Sunday, we'll take this break. When we come back in the second half, we'll be talking about the persistent first scarcity and the Central Bank of Nigeria. Please, you don't want to miss that.
On the 25th of February, Nigerians will go to the polls to elect President Muhammadu Buhari's successor, as well as the 109 senators and 360 members of the House of Representatives who will make up the 10th National Assembly. On the 11th of March, 28 out of 36 states will choose their next executive governors, and the 993 members of the state houses of assembly across the country will be decided. With over 93 million registered voters, Nigeria is on course for 7 cycles of uninterrupted general elections since return of democracy in 1999. Join me on TVC News for the countdown to the February 25th national election and March 11th state election for all the updates and analysis you need to know. Every weekday at 6 p.m.
It's the most visited state in Africa. As the 5th largest economy on the continent, covering Lagos and its government is no mean feat. It's a busy beat. We go beyond the cutting of tapes to traveling far into the deep.
I want to thank the Lagos State government for the healthcare facility.
To bring stories that cut across all spectrums.
A greater Lagos shall be ours.
Stories that define our collective well-being as Lagosians. I'm Adedoja Salamadini. I live in Lagos, inside Lagos.
TVC News first with breaking news.
We cover the big political stories in Nigeria, but people want more than just politics.
Business news, sports naturally, but you need news to live by also.
Stories about education, health, personal finance, and hey, even lifestyle news.
Newspaper reviews, travel news, and much more.
Nigeria, it's more than just politics. It's life.
Start your day with us every weekday.
TVC News Breakfast. First, fast, balanced, and accurate.
TVC News first with breaking news.
Thank you for staying with us. It's still Journalist Hangout on Sunday. For years, one of our national symbols was long queues at filling stations. It appears we are back to the dark days as perennial fuel scarcity, while fuel marketers under the aegis of Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN, attributes the scarcity as bottlenecks in the downstream sector. Nigerians have turned to black markets where petrol is sold for as high as 300 to 400 naira per litre to get fuel. Motorists, commuters, and business owners are bearing the brunt. Jide, you need to see people who did not go to church today. It wasn't looking like a Sunday. Early in the morning, all around 5 a.m., from 5 a.m., long queues everywhere. And the traffic, this has stifled free flow of vehicular movement across the country.
You know, the times are hard for the ordinary Nigerian.
Honestly.
The times are hard. But this biting fuel scarcity has made matters worse for the ordinary Nigerian. It has coincided with a period when even the electricity generation level has gone down. The other day, I think sometime last week, the discos were apologizing to Nigerians and claiming that what the TCN wills to them was too small, and that was why we are experiencing darkness across the land.
And under
we've seen people
harsh weather.
Yes, we've seen people who normally they used to have 21, 23 hours of electricity. They too are going through what the average Nigerian is going through. So, in such a situation, you want to buy petrol not just for your car, but for your generator and heat. But that's not what we are seeing. How can we have a situation in which this fuel scarcity that we've had since the second half of last year,
honestly,
is still on
till now
in an election year?
26 days to the election.
Some situations are being created to make it difficult for Nigerians to want to vote for the ruling party. Because it's before our eyes. Before our eyes, you see suffering. In an election year, you do not permit this kind of nonsense to happen. You put everything in place to remind, to convince Nigerians that, look, continuity of your government in power will make life even better for them. Not create or allow a situation
people
like this that our people can easily point at the pains that they are going through.
Spending at the filling station.
Just a few weeks to election. You do not permit this kind of thing to happen. I mean, this fuel scarcity has gone on for too long.
Honestly.
People used to praise President Buhari that, when he came in fuel scarcity evaporated. Though some of them are not actually completely right, because in 2017 we went through serious fuel scarcity under this administration. But now, if you've had fuel scarcity for the number of months that we've had this,
honestly,
there is no way in an election year that you allow that to happen. It makes no sense. People will be able to, you cannot even point to the fact that you sanitize that sector. If what people can see is what we are seeing now, Nigerians have never bought fuel for as high as they are buying it now.
Never.
In my area, it is 310 per liter. But people are buying at 400. When I went to Akure, Ayodeji Moradeyo had to buy black market at 800 naira for 4 liters. Because he couldn't find anywhere to buy fuel. The only fuel station that we saw selling fuel in Akure Metropolis actually had one pump, just a pump.
Chaotic.
But if you see the number of people there, motorbikes and the rest of them trying to buy fuel, I mean, this pain has been allowed to go on for too long. And I won't be surprised if the opposition parties, if they are jubilant about this, because they have something to tell Nigerians that, look, we told you we are better than these people. Now, as you can see, so this is the thing. The decision makers, President Buhari and the rest of them,
Minister of Petroleum,
the Minister of Petroleum
himself, President Buhari,
they should think more about their own legacy, the legacy they want to leave behind. They should think more about their party rather than thinking about themselves. It may not bother them. They may not feel the pain that the rest of us are feeling. I mean, if you are petroleum minister or minister of state for petroleum, if you want 1 million liters, they can make it available, or it's just instruction that you give. We know that is possible. Now, I'm not saying that that's what they are doing, but I know that you cannot be petroleum minister and be going through the pains that the rest of us are going through. But it doesn't stop you from thinking that, why should we allow this to happen? It's marks of inefficiency in the system to allow this nonsense that is going on, this pain that Nigerians are going through, to continue. The people who are happy about it are people who think that, well, it sits well with us because we can use it to campaign against the government. It is possible that there are actually fifth columnists within the system. And I expect President Buhari, who has been a victim of fifth columnists when he was a military president, a military head of state, I expect him to know that you can't trust everyone around you. There are people who actually be fifth columnists. I mean, even if he didn't read history, he should at least be able to recall things that happened to him. When he was head of state, he didn't order people to, soldiers to go and dismantle Awolowo's library. They went into Awolowo's house, turned his house upside down, dismantled his library because they wanted people to turn against President Muhammadu Buhari. President Muhammadu Buhari is alive. He remembers this case because when we interviewed him at the news magazine, he told us that he never sent them. So there are people, few columnists, probably trying to bring down his government. He ought to know that and do the needful.
I have my first caller. David is calling us from the United Kingdom. Thank you for joining us, David.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for all the good work you lot are doing.
Thank you, sir.
I think it's my first destination to get good information from Nigeria.
Thank you. Thank you.
Regarding the fuel scarcity, I think the real problem really is about the way our economy is designed and the connection to the US dollar. I think that this is where Tinubu gets it right. We've got to make progress. We've got to look at the bigger strategic issues. How do we begin to decouple the Nigerian economy and budget from the US dollar so that we can determine most of our pricing and how we determine value in NAIRA? I think that's the big issue. I mean, beyond the election itself. So hopefully we will get there.
Thank you, David.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you for your contribution. What will, because I know that in 24 hours, the president can, even though if it's artificial, to just make sure, oh, because of this election, we can't afford to create this impression about our party. We can't submit our people to this kind of hardship. What will APC be telling average Nigerians across the country and that are in the filling station right now? They have not even decided to vote.
The undecided voters, especially, would be difficult to convince for the ruling party as we speak. And that's why the president, who incidentally is a minister of petroleum, he has been since the inception of his administration, almost 8 years ago, should be worried. It is as if the APC controls the ministry, and this is happening in an election year. People are disappointed in the approach of the government. Even party members are unhappy. I am sure they expect more from the government than it is currently doing. The danger therein is for people to judge the ruling party with this incident as we approach the election. Unfortunately, that will not help us make informed choice. It will not, because it's a one-off thing that has been allowed to linger. It should not be difficult. It should not be difficult for the president and the government to ensure palliative measures that will bring this crisis down as we head to the election. It will not be out of place for the government to decide once and for all to tackle whatever. Ipman, that is independent petrol market, that has been telling us it is due to certain issues somewhere. Why is it difficult for us to go straight to this place they point to, see if what they are saying is the truth, and help alleviate the sufferings of Nigeria? Because if there is something I saw online, say, which queue are you joining today? It is a campaign slogan that can tilt things the other way for the ruling party. I expect people to be worried. It appears people are not taking this as serious as they should. Forget the election. Should Nigerians go through this kind of suffering? The answer is no.
President Muhammadu Buhari, the people that are around President Buhari, some people are not telling him the truth, and they're not giving him the picture of the implication of this thing, this kind of damage might do to his party and his legacy.
Yes. Normally, you expect the president to finish strongly. There are many things that he has done that, would define his legacy. You cannot take away some of the credits or some of the good things that this president has done, especially where you can see people suffering and coming in. What he has done by way of helping states that found it difficult to pay salaries and all that, because he didn't want people to suffer. He's known to have stepped it. That under him, a president that has helped the masses to take away their pains, helped poor pensioners to say, okay, pay this. Even Biafra policemen, he stepped in and helped them to pay
their money.
Pay them what they were owed. Is that same president that people are seeing under his watch? Fuel scarcity has lingered for this long, and is even looking like it's getting worse with every passing day. Because some months back, it wasn't this bad. How did we allow it to suddenly become this bad? This bad to the point that people will be buying petrol at 400 naira per liter in Lagos, 310. it was, some were selling between 400 and 480. Of course,
now, Lagos is 400.
That's a very distant location to Lagos.
Yes.
But the tank farms are here. This is where the ships birth.
If you start selling the 300 naira in Lagos,
yet our
imagine
people,
what happened in Katsina and Maiduguri.
and that's why those marketers were warning the other day that, look, this thing could go as high as 800 naira per liter, even when subsidy is removed. We are now hearing the usual excuses that, oh, it is smuggling that is making this to happen. Nigerians don't want to hear such stories. What's our business with that? The duty of the government is to stop the smuggling. There are people who are mandated to stop the smuggling of these products across our borders. I do not even believe that smuggling,
this kind
could make it this bad. How many tankers of smuggled petrol go across our borders in a day, for example, that will now lead to the level of pain? Did we not have smuggling before now? Is smuggling a new phenomenon? Has it not been with us for years? Almost as old as our country? So the president and his minders have to realize the damage that this is done. It's just an advice that I'm giving. Some people are happy because
they don't even like the way you are talking about it.
I know they are going to abuse me. They are going to abuse me, but if this problem is solved, you see, people who have one-track reasoning, they would think, oh, he's saying this because he wants APC to win. You understand? Oh, he's saying this because of Bola Tinubu. Oh, he's saying this because, his preferred choices, a particular person. But if you solve the problem, the ordinary man, the suffering goes away. That is my own attitude. It's just similar to what's happening with the NAIRA thing. If you solve the problem and it becomes available to everyone,
the suffering
will go away. It's not. I'm not concerned about the politician. I'm not concerned. But I can at least advise you that, look, if you want to live on a strong note and you want your party to remain in power, the level of suffering that we are seeing, stop it. That's why, look at what the Kano governor did and others. They said, you can't come now. Because they didn't want a situation in which the president's convoy will be stoned. It's a possibility. It has happened before. Did it not happen in Borno? Abi? Or have we forgotten? So, and look at the protest even in Katsina.
Okay, from the first city, I'll take you to the Central Bank of Nigeria. And finally, the Central Bank of Nigeria has bowed to pressure as it has announced a 10-day extension on the deadline for the use of old Naira notes across the country. The CBN governor, who spoke to journalists on Sunday morning, said he had the approval of President Muhammadu Buhari to make the extension. The new deadline is now February the 10th instead of the former 31st of January deadline. Before now, anger, panic, and frustration was the order of the day as time raced to the deadline for the removal of the old 100, 500, and 200 Naira notes from circulation. Citizens continue to queue endlessly at automated teller machines, ATMs, to get the new Naira notes. Others moved from bank to bank in search of the scarce Naira notes with minimum success. The CBN governor spoke with journalists. Let's take a listen.
We have today sought and obtained Mr. President's approval for the following. 1. A 10-day extension of the deadline from January 31, 2023 to February 10, 2023 to allow for collection of more old notes legitimately held by Nigerians and achieve more success in cash swap in our rural areas, in our villages and communities, after which all old notes outside the CBN loses their legal tender status. To February 17, 2023, in compliance with Section 20, subsection 3 and Section 22 of the CBN Act, allowing Nigeria to deposit their old notes of lots is legal.
So what was the grandstanding about 31st. No, we can't extend. Now this is it now.
Pure arrogance, unnecessarily.
What was
now? So the CBN governor realized that we had people in the rural
areas.
This was the
finding
point
it difficult to access.
All these points
these
were,
were the points we were making
marshaled, and he didn't listen. All the points were marshaled, but it just shows that policymakers need to ensure that when they are making this, they are still with us. They must always consider the people, feel what we feel, put their feet on the ground. They should not stay mid-here and pronouncing policies. Because for me, this decision to change is not as honorable as it would have been if he had listened to the cries of Nigerians before now. And then I am
now he's the one who said that he had gone to seek approval to extend. Why you not the same person who up till Saturday was saying no going back? So you are now saying
go and seek approval.
He said he has sought that they have sought approval, which means you are the one, or it came from you. You went to the president, or you were the same person telling us that you will never, you will not do this, you will not do that. Yes, he went to Daura to see the president.
So he will have just told us, okay, let's see how it goes. We may, if he had used the word, we may extend. Nigerians will feel.
He kept saying no going back, no going back.
He made it look like. And then I was speaking with somebody abroad. He's a Nigerian, but a British Nigerian, who said everywhere in the world they change currency. He said after the death of Queen Elizabeth, they both old and new side by side. But once the old one comes into the banking system, don't put it back again. He said it may take years. It may take months, but gradually.
You can give 2 years. I think that's what the Britons have.
He said gradually. 2 years. He said some old notes will get so old without even changing currency that banks will say no, this one can't go back. That's a simple procedure that did not demand or warrant this grandstanding. That was what he used.
And arrogance.
He said he saw
what he, that is it for.
He said what he said.
At the point in time, they even try to politicize this thing.
Yes. No, the thing, when Ashwaju made that remark that if you like
hide money
things to presidential candidates, they are just hitting out the politics with the stupid remarks that they are making, stupid statements that they are releasing on behalf of their people.
Yes.
They went on to say, oh, Ashwaju was expressing his frustration because Buhari was not going with him to campaign. They are saying that, oh, he was referring to Buhari. Yeah. Meanwhile, he neither referred to himself nor to the president. What he was trying to say was that there are some people bent on frustrating.
He said it now.
He never mentioned, and it's possible too that there will be fifth columnists within any system. Yeah. He never mentioned the president. They twisted it to mean that, it's Buhari that is attacking. Oh, that they should not listen. Now, we've seen Atiku. So, on behalf of whom they issued such a ridiculous statement, we've seen Atiku now also saying that there should
be an extension.
Because Atiku is a politician who is smart. He knew that the people can easily decide that, oh, so you approve of the suffering that we are going through. So he too said, no, give this thing, extend this thing. Traditional rulers have pleaded. When you talk, ignorant people on social media will say, oh, why is it that it's only politicians who are complaining? But we've seen MBA complain, we've seen students complain, all kinds of people have complained. Yeah. We've seen even financial analysts complain.
And
why is it that we are so blinded by politics that we always read politics?
How many of these prominent politicians have you seen queuing by the ATM trying to withdraw money?
You see, the Nigerian who thinks that big politicians will not have access to money to spend for election. They need to have their... It means that some people are just infinitely ignorant. The politician, you think bank staff will not hoard money
make gains
and give to politicians? You think the politician is like you that will go to ATM and be looking for money? No. It is the ordinary man that will suffer at the end of the day. The politician that you think this thing is designed for will not have access to money. You will see that the politician will have access to it because they have their connections. Some of them have stakes in some banks. They have connection right into the banks. the decision makers in the banks, the money that they need, their own will come out. It is your own. Those ignorant people who are defending Emefiele over something that makes no sense. They are the ones who will suffer. The politician will still find the money that he wants. Maybe we're in this country together. We shall see. The politician will still find the money that he needs. He will call the people in you and I spending money. I came back from Akure. I landed at MM2. I wanted to get currency. People are telling us that it's everywhere. You know, all those stupid remarks that it's everywhere. There was no single ATM machine, ATM dispensing at MM2. I then asked the question, say for the past 3 days, none of the ATMs you see here has dispensed cash. That's in MM2. I'm talking about Friday. People can investigate. So if at such a rarefied place, we can't even find money, you can imagine how bad it is. And when we are talking about the rural people, they are Nigerians like the rest of us. Do you know what my friend, the Speaker of Borno State, told me? He said in Borno State, you know, Borno State has the honor of sharing border with three countries, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger. He said those communities close to Nigeria, it is our currency that they are spending. Now, they are bringing Nigerian currency in sacks to Borno, where you have only banks in 4 local governments out of 27.
4 out of 27.
And they are bringing currency, our currency, from those countries. They are bringing it in sacks. There is no way that those ones, except Emefiele wants to have people's blood on his hand. Some of them, if they can't change their money, they will commit suicide, and their blood will be on his head. Because there's just no time. The time that you are giving is not enough. Let's do things the way it's done in other countries of the world. Even in the UK, we thought even after the expiration, people should be able.
I think that's part of the arrangement.
Banks should be able to. Now, why are they thinking about
I think
that?
That's because
why are they thinking?
February,
let me tell you something.
You can bring it to 17th.
They have said that they have employed 400 agents, CBN. What he didn't do before now, in the last few days, they've employed 400 agents to help them mop up this thing. Why didn't you do it before now? We told you this thing, there was a lot of inefficiency in this thing. You didn't agree. You are showing arrogance. Now you've seen it yourself. You are the one who went to the president to ask for time.
He wants to effect all these changes in 10 days. You see, sometimes
after all the years that he has had,
you had months
6 days to the election
to correct the anomalies that people. So you see, the fact that you are the policy maker does not mean that it's foolproof. People can see through it and identify some mistakes. But from what we have seen, he has gotten approval for an extension for 10 days. In 10 days, he wants to mop up all the old NAIRA notes.
So far, they've seen 2.7 trillion. And they're looking for 3.8 trillion.
He mopped up 2.7 in months. Now he's going to clear 3-point-something in days. You see, it shows how unprepared we are sometimes when we make policies. A good policy that will help the economy, if badly managed,
will inflict pain on the people.
The people let me share my experience with you today. I was coming, no fuel. There is just one filling station selling, and people lined up. I joined. Some people got to the point of sale, brought up old notes. The people there said they won't take. At that point, double jeopardy in the money.
Yes. Can you imagine?
Now the money he has cannot buy. You can imagine the frustration of such a person. I quickly, because I was also with old notes, so I quickly reversed from the place and decided to find solution to my problem, and that is going to buy black market. You see how one badly managed policy will inflict hurts.
If banks are still giving people old notes,
you enter the bank, they give you old notes. The few ATM that worked yesterday around Fatah Atere were dispensing old notes.
I don't understand.
Yesterday. Today,
that
banks
the
are
only
working.
reason for that is either the bank staff too are hoarding it.
Yes.
But BKO, you understand this is Nigeria.
If it's not readily available, people will hoard.
See, let me shock you. I attended a social event on Friday, and new notes were sprayed.
That one has been there. See, My quarrel with that kind of arguments is they've been selling memorial.
No,
it's been with us.
I mean this new note.
Yeah, no, from time.
I'm talking about new currency.
I'm telling you, that does not mean that we have it readily available.
Money.
No, I'm not saying you have readily
because
available.
that is the argument that
I'm
some people make.
Currency
traders are also
that's the
wrong way of looking at this problem.
No.
The fact that people are trading in it does not mean it is
available.
available.
No, that's the wrong argument.
How you judge that is go to the ATM points. How many of them are dispensing new notes? I sent my boy Lekon to go and get me money yesterday. He came back with old notes. I said, what's the meaning of this? Why did you bring old? I said, you should have called me to say they didn't have.
No, you wouldn't know what will come out now. I went to the ATM yesterday because somebody told me. No, somebody told me new notes have been dispensed somewhere. I went there. When it was my turn, it was old notes. I was using that spraying thing to buttress your point that it is possible that bank staffers are trading with this thing.
No, they are.
So it does not connote availability. Oh. I'm only telling you.
If you are a bank staff and the politician promises you hefty money, he makes a deal with you.
And then you make personal.
You think they will not keep some money for them?
That should. I was going to say that is part of what the CBN governor should have factored into all his arguments.
He said it.
But if he knew
that CBN workers they're looking into it and they're going to deal with them.
He should have dealt with it.
And ICPC.
He should have dealt with it before.
How many banks can they monitor? How many staff are
okay, are you also saying bank staffs are not eligible to bring their own old notes and change it to new notes in the bank? By so doing, making some deals, cutting some deals, coming with money in their bags and changing it. And it is lucrative for them to do because we are in a hurry. Yes. If we are not in a hurry, and I know I can get it as at when due, I won't cut deals.
Is that fear of the deadline?
That is why they are
pushing people to say, okay, I will give you this amount of money,
and then the people lining up outside the bank won't get it.
They won't get it.
I also discovered something yesterday that bank security agents, once new notes are loaded in place, they already have the phone numbers of POS agents they will call. Come and line up. Get the one available, and then the real people who need the money are left with the old notes. Banks are refusing to load their ATMs because they don't want to dispense old notes and they don't have
the POS guys. They change money now. They now change.
If you want to change now, you pay extra. It's not even part of the earlier arrangement. Now you want to change your old notes to new notes. This is how much you will pay me. So it is
somebody paid an extra 20,000.
It's possible
to get 60,000.
Time people will not suffer. Markets were closed. I mean, most marketers refused to sell yesterday, and the argument was, "I will not take."
That one has implications.
Even today,
because of this deadline,
most markets are half empty. They say they won't take old notes, and buyers will not come with new notes
because they don't have enough.
Because they don't have.
The fear of this deadline, churches will not even.
No, churches have notified people don't bring old notes. Because if you bring it, how do they change it? It's chaotic in the banks to even get inside. You can imagine. I told you about Yola, where I wanted to get into Access Bank. There was only one branch in the whole of
and then you need to see the crowd.
You can come and see the crowd inside. Come and see the crowd. So people will bring hefty money they want to change. You are even a lot of the people that even want to change money, they are not captured in the banking system at all. You know, these are people who didn't have account. They just do their legitimate business.
And they are bringing the raw cash.
It's not everybody who brings, somebody, the way Nigerians think. He said he saw hefty money, this and that. So, and they said there's no money. Some people made legitimate money and it's hefty money. Because they didn't think they should they should have a bank account.
So some people,
it's a religious thing. For some people, it's cultural.
Some people, it's even business.
But it's legitimate
money.
He
uses the money every day.
Should they lose the money?
There are people who use their money daily, so they don't want to put it in the bank. Now they are forced to approach the banks, and then the bank is not prepared. If Emefiele wanted us to do this thing in a couple of days like he planned, he should have printed. No,
you don't even do this kind of thing.
It's a funny arrangement. There are people who will have to travel
with fiat.
There are people who have to travel 3 hours, 4 hours to get to a bank.
Yes.
We still have them in this country.
Yes.
There are locations that the nearest bank is 3 hours.
Yeah, because of insecurity and all that.
Because of insecurity and all that.
Especially in the north. Did you read the statement by the Arewa Consultative Forum? And some of those laws. some people who are making all this noise, they've never left Lagos. All their lives, they've never stepped out of Lagos. They've not gone to the north to see how a lot of our people, rural people, hard-working people who make legitimate money, they are not money launderers. They made their legitimate money. We must do our best to ensure that they don't lose the money that they have made. They must do our best. Because some of them will be driven to suicide. Look at the boy who was warning that. Look, he said if he brought out his money, 350,000. He said he's gone to the bank 3 times and he couldn't change the money. That if I can't change this money, I will become, and this money get wasted in my hand, I will become a bandit. He even swore to God.
Oh, you were talking about suicide. I was going to say criminality is another thing.
No,
this is a good example.
Let me tell you, suicide happened in 1984. When Buhari was head of state and he did this kind of thing. A big man in one of the northern states who could not change
his money,
the quantum of his money, he committed suicide. I don't want to mention the name. He committed suicide. It's possible.
There's no way we will say people's money will get expired or liquidated. Money they worked for.
All right, we have to leave it there. Dari Odufokon, I want to thank you for your contribution, Journalist Hangout on Sunday. BQ, thank you. We are counting down to the 2023 general election. And it's 26 days to go. BQ.
Yes, we will do our best from the beginning of February. We'll start analyzing state by state the strength of the political parties.
Candidates.
See, we can project who will win in some of the states. Done it before. Yeah. Be bothered by what people are saying. Journalistic prophecy is done all over the world.
It's professional.
It doesn't make
have to suit you.
It doesn't make you God. It doesn't make you God. Yeah. You are just speaking from an informed position. What you think will happen. You know, and if you are objective, you are likely to get it right. Yeah. You know, some of them will point out what happened in Osun. They did not predict that Oyetola.
Nobody has seen it now.
But from the number of lawful votes, Oyetola not won now.
Whatever happens after this, it has been proven that.
All right, and that's our offering this Sunday. Join us tomorrow for the regular episode of Journalist Hangout by 5 p.m. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11:30 p.m. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayo Dili Utubako. See you tomorrow, and God bless Nigeria.